If your business is growing, but your cash still feels tight, there's a good chance that the leak isn't where you think it is. In this episode, I sit down with Jacob Reese from Standard Supply to break down where contractors quietly burn profit. We talk about everything like overbuying inventory, wasting skilled labor on low-value tasks, chasing pennies instead of revenue, and pricing their work like technicians instead of real business owners. How opportunity cost is killing more profit than most business owners realize, and why the real fix usually is not saving more money. It is focusing on the few levers that actually grow your business. If you want to make more money without drowning in busy work, this conversation will show you what to stop doing first. All right, Jacob, so you deal with a bunch of different contractors in the trade space. Where do you see guys just pissing money away?
Yeah, well, being in the wholesale business my entire life, my family, third generation, right? I've been able to see contractors that came into the counter when they were first working for their first boss, and I now know those guys who've started their own companies, sold them, and watched them the entire way.
So you were sharing with me how just the other day you were dealing with a guy that has like $1 million in inventory and just losing a ton of money. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, well over that amount, and the reality is that in our business, the number one goal of every business should be to make money. Right. And I think in contractors especially, right, a lot of them haven't gone to proper education. Maybe they've gone to labor or to get the skills, the skill.
Really good technicians, really good at delivering an awesome product to the customer, but maybe lack a little bit on that back end.
Yeah. Struggle to figure out how to pay the bills. And a lot of them will get distracted. They've never gotten big checks in their life. Someone gives a deposit for a job and then they go blow it in Vegas, right? I've seen that happen. They go blow it in marketing. They go blow it in things that are not going to generate revenue for the business. They want to become their own supply house. I went to a contractor. They had $500,000 in inventory.
How big a contractor are we talking? Like, how much revenue is he doing a year?
This contractor that I talked to was doing over $20 million.
Okay,
and they had $500,000 in inventory.
Just sitting there, okay.
And 6 employees that were managing that inventory.
Good night.
And they were proud of that. Hey, we're doing all these great things. And I asked them, well, how many SKUs do you have in here? And it was 5,000.
Oh my gosh.
And I look at what they're buying on a monthly basis, and most contractors are buying well under that 1,000 mark on a monthly basis.
5,000 SKUs. That's wild.
And it's just the distraction. It takes them away from what they're really trying to do. And so one of the biggest things I think is not focusing on what they need to do best. And that's
it's interesting. Like, people think, hey, if I just control my own inventory, I'm going to save all this money, right? 6 employees, let's say the average employee in there is probably making $40,000, maybe $50,000. I don't know. It depends on the state. $40,000 is about $20 an hour. I mean, you're spending $250,000 a year just in labor to be able to manage $500,000 in inventory. So that $500,000 in inventory all of a sudden increased by essentially 50%.
Yeah.
By having all that labor associated with it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Or they'll call every supply house and they'll bid every single item out. And the reality is, how much time does it take to do that? I remember getting an email from a contractor saying, hey, please bid out a 1-inch black 90 and a roll of Teflon tape. And this is getting delivered.
No.
It was 25 miles away from my shop.
Stop.
And I remember opening up that email and I looked at it and I paused for a second. I said, I just lost money looking at this. And I don't want to sound like, oh, my time's is not worth it, right? Every customer that comes in
you lost money.
is worth it. But it was one of those realizations that you have, in life where you're sitting there and you're like, what am I doing?
Right.
And it was just kind of an awakening of like, I don't want to work with this contractor.
Yeah.
It was one black 90, right?
Yeah.
You're talking like a $3 part on a bad day, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to the principle that a lot of business owners struggle with. They try saving themselves to prosperity versus, hey, if I just literally go and get one more job, one more account, spend a little bit more on marketing or whatnot, like the pennies that I could have saved negotiating this deal or getting, a better supplier or whatever else, I would have made 20x or whatnot. And so I see this all the time, right? The guys are just focusing on the wrong things, and they, like, everybody wants to be a deal maker, right? And I'm sure you see this from your end because you're the side that people are always trying to haggle down, right? Like, hey man, if I could just get my supplies down somehow, I'm going to make some money. It's like, no, Janet, if you just go and sell a little bit more, you're already selling at 50% gross margins. Just put a few more accounts on the board every single month.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I just noticed, being in the wholesale business, we're such a key part to what they do, right? We supply all their parts. We give them a credit line.
Yeah.
And so many wholesalers, they want to just stock up the contractors with inventory and take their money. But the reality is like, hey, that's their operating cash. Let them run their business. Unfortunately, a lot of them they don't know the things to focus on. And there's a book, The Goal, by Eli Goldratt, and it's one of the best books about operations. And he goes, what is the goal? Right? And everyone has a different idea. Well, I want to be the biggest contractor in America, or I want to be the best at drains, or whatever that might be. But the reality is that if you don't have the one goal to make the money, you can't do anything else.
Right.
And he goes and he explains, hey, the people and the things in your business that generate revenue, those are typically you have to find the bottlenecks that prevent that. And in the home service business, it's typically the guy either having a problem selling the job, number one, or number two, putting all this stuff in.
Right.
And so that's really where Standard is focused on trying to buy back time. If you try to get an hour a day through increased efficiencies through the VMI program that we offer and managing their labor on a very
So I got to
basis.
ask you like just the ugly questions. What is the worst credit line that you've had default?
Ooh. See, now the thing, like, we'll have them go there and we'll leave them open for a long time.
Sure.
And try to get them paid off.
But what's the worst?
Yeah, it's
dollar amount.
Well over $500,000.
$500,000. Jeez, dude. Yeah, I think back. So I had a failed business, and our supply house, we left with a $400,000. It was nasty. Yeah, that was not good. Many, many, many years ago, when I was young, dumb, and just had no idea how to run a business. It's crazy. So $500,000. Do you guys are you using third party financing for any of that? Is it being underwritten by anybody else, or is that all in house?
It's all in house.
Ooh, nice. Does insurance help with any of that stuff?
I mean, you can
Right.
get insurance for that kind of stuff.
Curious about how that works.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Chris. If you're finding value in what you're hearing, go ahead and like and subscribe. That way people just like you can find this content for free here on YouTube. Now let's dive back in the show.
Obviously, those are the worst. I think it's always interesting to know that. But most of these guys are operating on lines of credit. So tell me, you said you run a VMI program. What is that?
Yeah, it stands for Vendor Managed Inventory. Acronyms are always hard because a lot of people don't know what they mean.
Right.
But the reality is that, hey, we know parts better than anybody else.
Yep.
I've done it my whole life. I'm 32, but I was basically born in the warehouse, and I've held every job at Standard, and been blessed to learn a lot through the industry of working with people. And so watching people in their business, especially my customers, not know how to manage inventory correctly, they're going to go buy the what ifs. Right. I'm at the supply house, might as well get it. I think everybody, I've gone in and installed some water heaters with plumbers, so I know what I'm doing. And the one time I went out, I had to go back to my store 5 times because we didn't have the parts list done right. And you think every time you leave the job, you're not making money.
Right.
You're making money when you leave and you take the money from the contract or the customer. And so any time and anything that stops you from doing that is really stopping the company from making money.
Right. Yeah, opportunity cost is the largest expense that any contractor has, right? Like having their labor in the field, fulfilling on work is the very most important thing. In fact, it's a funny thing. So here at our building, we had solar installed, and it needed our electricians to finalize the hookup. And for over a year, we did not hook it up. And people are like, why don't you hook it up? And I'm just like, dude, the cost to have one of my electricians off the job to come and save me money on my electric bill is so much. Like I am making $18,000 a day that electrician is out in the field doing installs for me. Every single day, one of my journeymen is worth $18,000 to me. And so if I were to pull him off for a whole week, that would literally cost me $90,000. And I can't save $90,000 worth of electricity. And so us as a solar company literally went our solar not activated for over a year because of just that whole opportunity cost. And I think so often business owners just don't understand that, right? Like they send their skilled labor to, to go pick up a piece of equipment or go to Home Depot or go and do all these things, and they're just missing out on that revenue. We had the term in our business called "keep the welders welding," right? Like, that is their job, and it's guys like you that allow us to focus on the things that we're very good at, because you're obviously very good at it, and the amount of money that we could save trying to do your job is probably very little.
Yeah, wholesalers, this is a shout out. You don't make a lot of money being a wholesaler. It's not something you're going to get rich off of. It takes a long time, it takes a lot of credit, and it requires a lot of capital, right? We have to pay our vendors within 30 days of receiving that product. And hopefully we can sell it within 30 days. And with that, we hope that our contractors can pay us within 30 days.
Right.
And in a perfect world, that might happen, but this world isn't so perfect all the time, especially when it comes to credit in the industry. One of my customers spent, this was just this last year, he spent $70,000 in marketing, and he was hoping to change his whole life, and this marketing was going to be the next thing and really help his company grow. And unfortunately, he got like $30,000 of jobs, and he netted maybe 10% on that. And so you spend $70,000 and you make $3,000, right? And that's
a negative
hopefully
return.
After everyone got paid the negative return. But guess how big his bill was at standard? $70,000.
Right.
Right. And so I noticed something very quickly. If you can't save a lot, and the savings by chasing parts and doing all these things to maybe get a lesser price is not going to move the needle, well, what is? And I look at it and I say, if they're not pricing themselves right, and this comes from Ken Goodrich, his very first thing is you have to price yourself right as a contractor. And if you're marking it up, if you pay $100 for an item and you mark it up 40%, or whatever that may be, 4X, well, you're better off to pay more, because then you're going to make more money.
Right.
And, pricing yourself right in the industry is probably the most important thing that I could see. Learning how to do your marketing right, learning how to manage your skilled labor, and that's where we focus on. And that's why Standard has maybe taken a different approach of saying, well, I want to help my contractors be and run better businesses, because I think in the long run, if they're good business people, they're paying their bills, they're hiring the right people, they're pricing themselves right, then they're going to bless the community and do so much more than for me to just say, hey, I want to sell you everything that you're going to buy. And yes, I want to do that, but the reality is that if they're not healthy, they're not going to be buying parts.
Right.
If they're not growing, they're going to be buying less. If they're not paying their bills, then I'm paying their bills, right? Or whatever that looks like. And so that's just been a different approach that we've taken, and it's really helped the contractors, which has been probably the most rewarding part about doing wholesale that I've ever been able to experience.
Now, you've been setting up a lot of these, the vendor managed inventories, these VMIs you said you set up 5 yesterday, right?
Where you 5 contracts yesterday.
Okay.
So we're in the process of organizing those logistics.
So what does that look like? Like, say I'm a contractor, I'm like, yo, that sounds pretty dope. Like I want Standard to come in and do a VMI. What does that look like for me?
Yeah. So if you're a contractor in the industry, obviously you have your line of work. If it's going to be HVAC, plumbing, electrical, if you're into restoration, right? There's different verticals that you're focused on, and unfortunately, one size does not fit all. You have to go through and find out what you're buying. But the simplest way to do it is the Pareto rule, the 80-20, 20% of your jobs that are 80% of your revenue. And that's typically where we start with the discussions of saying, how do we make you buy back time on those jobs? And yes, there's certain price points, there's certain things in the market that you need to be aggressive on, right? You have to still play in that sandbox of being competitive on the parts and the pricing, but it's more of saying, how do we get the contractor to leave or to go to the job and not leave until they collect the paycheck? And you'll never be able to plan for the gold faucet, right? That random part that's in the wall that you haven't seen in 25 years.
Of course.
You need the random part for the faucet that's 50 years old. The reality is that you should probably be selling something new if possible, because it's going to do better for the homeowner in the long run.
Right. Awesome. So again, when someone decides to set that up, like, what does that look like? Do they need a certain amount of warehouse? Like, what are you guys typically looking at?
Yeah, typically it's volume, right? If you want a VMI, we try to only do them where we have a staffed personnel there, and that's because throwing a bunch of parts in your warehouse doesn't solve the problem.
What do you mean by staff personnel? You're saying an employee for the company that you're setting it up with.
Exactly. A standard employee that's there, part of their team, working with them on a daily basis.
Standard employee is at their shop.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
100% of the time, or they're bouncing around between
40 hours a week.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and they're working 100% to buy back time. It's the only time machine I've found in the home service industry of saying, how do we buy that time back for them so that they can make more revenue?
Interesting. So with a standard employee, is this somebody that you guys are hiring at that point and training them up, or you're bringing somebody in? Like how does that typically structure?
Yeah, I think the best example, maybe the first one that we set up, we hired the wrong guy, and it's nothing bad against him. It just wasn't the right culture fit. And so really taking the time to find someone that's going to work inside their business and work with them is one of the most important things that we've found. It starts with the right person, but then also at the same time, it's buy-in from the company, buy-in from the owner, the leaders of the company. They say the biggest bottleneck can be the leaders, and I've seen that time and time again, including right with myself and with my team. If you don't put in the right systems and processes of saying this is how we're going to do it, and then force everybody, and maybe encourage them is probably a better word, but encourage them, have accountability and systems and processes around their inventory, that's where they're going to see that growth.
Where do you see guys breaking mostly with their system around managing their inventory?
Oh, there's lots of ways.
Tell us about them. Count us the ways.
First one, you look at how an insurance policy works, right? Everybody pays in a little bit for the hopes that you don't ever have to use it. Mm-hmm. When a contractor goes to a supply house, they want to take a full insurance policy on everything they might need.
Sure.
They're going to go buy 5 bags of a special item. They're going to go buy extra of these, extra of those. They see a new tool on the shelf. They're going to want to buy it. And that's great, right? They buy from the wholesalers. That's our job. But you go out to their truck after that job, and probably 75% of the stuff that they bought is on their truck, and it's truck rot. Then you take all the other things that they're doing on their truck, and those things add up over time. That extra, if you add an extra ball valve on every job, right, that can add up to a significant amount. And over time, it's hard because those are taking the resources of the company. Their job costing isn't exact, so it's harder for them to know where they should price it at. Their capital's taken out of their business, so they can't buy more trucks, they can't hire more people, they can't spend more in marketing, and those things that are going to pull that lever for the company aren't as powerful because their resources are tied up in stuff that they just simply don't need.
Yeah. Where do you feel like contractors lack the most training and education, and like what do they need to learn more of?
Oh. In running their business?
Yeah, just running their business. I mean, is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it inventory management? Where do you see guys struggling the most?
I go back to pricing themselves right. Mm-hmm. Like I always see.
What is it? What is the standard that you see with these guys? Like if somebody's priced wrong, how are they typically pricing themselves?
They're pricing themselves hourly. And they're going off of a bad formula that they learned when they were first in the industry.
Give me an example.
And times maybe they're going to charge $100 an hour,
Ugh.
$50 an hour.
Shoot me in the face.
But the reality is that $100 an hour doesn't start, number one, until they get a call for someone to call them. Right. And some of these companies now, when you're competing against private equity, they have millions and millions of dollars of budgets in place for marketing. And so they're going to go online and compete against that to get a call. Then they're going to charge the homeowner $100 an hour when they get there. And that doesn't include the supply house run. Right. That doesn't include the gas station run. That doesn't include their lunch break. That doesn't include all these other things. And so you look at it and it's like it's typically the guys who have 1 to 3 trucks. They're typically family that work for family, right? Because they can't afford to pay somebody outside of their family, unfortunately. And their bills usually aren't paid. They're always trying to haggle on the price. And it's unfortunate because they can't bless the lives of their family. And I look at everything that we do. I look at my family, like that's why I go to work. I want to bless the lives of my family, and I want to help other people. Tommy Mello has it was like a clip on TikTok I saw, and somebody was asking, he was at like a garage door event, and I'm paraphrasing this, so I'll have to maybe correct it later, but someone was asking, hey, how much do you charge for this garage door? And so how much do you charge? And they got to Tommy, and he told everyone what he charged, and there was a guy who laughed, and Tommy goes, "What's so
How
funny?"
do you sleep at night?
Yeah, and he goes, "How do you sleep at night charging that price?" And Tommy goes, "Okay, that's fair. Well, raise your hand if you have new trucks. Raise your hand if you're spending in marketing. Raise your hand if you're paying leading wages. Do you have benefits for your employees?" And then he just said, "How do you sleep at night? Because are you taking care of your people? Right? Are you giving Miss Johnson a great deal on her garage door on the backs of your people?"
Right.
And I think in the industry, if you're not a good steward over the pricing and you bring that pricing down, and it's not saying you want to rip people off. Don't get me wrong. Like, you need to be fair in the marketplace, but fair is based on the value perception. Like, are you going to go to Costco and buy a bag of, water bottles for $8 a piece? Probably not, right? Maybe if they're a special kind of water bottle, but you'll do it at Disneyland all day, but it's the value, it's what you offer and how you differentiate yourself in the marketplace.
Absolutely. The phrase we always use is there's no morality in price. There's only morality in the way you sell. And so, there's not a god of pricing that comes down and dictates like this is a fair price.
Yeah.
And essentially at the end of the day, if a customer understands the offering, knows the price, and makes the decision to buy, that's a moral deal, right? And the only time the immorality steps in is if you overpromise and underdeliver, right? Or you tell them you're going to do one thing and you do another, right? And so absolutely couldn't agree more with that, and it falls in line with our principles of like prioritization. As business owners, a lot of times we put the customer first, thinking like, oh, I've got to give them a good deal, I got to be able to sleep at night by being moral, when the reality is the first thing you got to put in place, what we always say is business comes first, right? Like, if you can't run a profitable business, you can't serve anyone, right? You run a profitable business, then it's your team members. Take care of your team members, and you do those two things, they're going to take care of your customer. And that's the ultimate way that you serve the customers, by putting those two things as the priority. And so, because at the end of the day, if you're out of business, can't answer the phone, can't service your work after the fact because you didn't charge enough, now who's screwed? It's the customer.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, it's always interesting. I think so many people get that wrong, right? Like, because it's been pounded in their head. The customer's always right. Put the customer first, everything else. Like, yeah, but the way you do that is by actually charging them more.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting rule of business. I think a lot of guys struggle to be able to get there.
Yeah, it's going back to the things that they struggle the most with. It's they don't know where to focus their time. They want to focus on helping others, and you can still help others. I think some of the people who help the most, right, are those who are able to, those who have the money to do that. And how do they get the money? It's by running a good business. Right. It's by paying their bills on time. It's not trying to haggle your bill at the end of the month that you've racked up out of simple mismanagement. And it's been hard because I've known these people. They're friends to me, right? I love what I do because I get to work with those people who I love the most. Mm-hmm. And I consider all of them friends, and I'd like to have my friends learn. One of my good friends told me, you can turn decades into weeks just by changing the way that you think or learning something and applying it into your life. And some of these guys don't use Service Titan. They don't even know about financing. And so, I couldn't charge that price. And it's like, hey, you could help this homeowner get everything that they want. And
for $30 a month.
$30 a month, $50 a month, and they're going to get paid the next day or same day in some of those instances. And so knowing those tools and resources, I think, is a huge hindrance if they're not aware of them, of where they could be and where they could go just by applying those things. And unfortunately, looking at how AI is evolving so fast, I mean, they're going to have the ability, talking with a company, same day AI, you're going to be a one-man truck, plumber, HVAC, electrician, and you can have your entire office administration automated.
Right.
From answering the phones, booking the calls, billing, helping you with accounting, all of those things that most contractors struggle with, you can do that through AI, and it's not going to be a crazy price, right? And knowing those things that are out there, that helps everybody so much more. And I've almost felt like it's not a calling, but something that I need to really focus on is helping my customers succeed by introducing them to the right training programs, the right coaches, and those people that are going to help them level their businesses up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Where So most of these guys are struggling. What revenue range would you say that they're falling in?
Every company has something to homes. I love home service because you can pull one lever of fixing your pricing.
Yeah.
You fixing managing your skilled labor with the VMI. You fix your marketing, and your entire program could change. Right? I mean, last week, one of my customers got with a new marketing company, and he went from being broke to, almost having $100,000 in jobs in just 1 week by changing the way that he does his ads. And so that's why I love it, and that's why hopefully there's the contractor out there's like, I'm struggling, I can never make it happen. You're one phone call, you're one connection away, you're one lever in your business away from profitability.
Yeah. And usually it's ourselves that are standing in the way. The thing that you mentioned is like really understanding how you're levering your time, right? Like, what are you wasting your time on inside your organization where you could be focused on the Pareto law, right? Like the 20% that moves the 80%, and too often we just hang our hat on doing like all this busy work that we could be hiring somebody $20 an hour to do, $25 an hour to do, and we're taking away from the thing that we could be making $500 an hour from.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the most common mistakes is just, unwilling to give up control in certain things because they'd rather control it all versus go and find help that could actually take a ton of things off their plate.
Yeah, one of my friends, he says, I run a perfect business because I have to touch everything. And I'm like, is that really perfect? And that book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, right. It'll change your life if they can, the contractors can read that and embrace it. You look at an arrow, and if you're hunting, what part of the arrow kills the animal? It's the tip, right? And so the tip is the thing that the contractor does very best. And all the rest of that is important. You have to have it. You can't kill the animal with just the tip. But those things are typically things that you can delegate out because that tip, without it, a dull tip, you're not going to kill anything, right? Unless it's going super fast or whatever that might be. But focusing on the things that they do best. And that's really where standard's at with the VMIs. We look for companies that are $5 million in revenue to kind of start, that have warehouse space. We typically like to have about 2,000 square feet. That gives us enough space to do the kitting of their top 5 jobs, the organizing of their truck stock replenishment. I mean, we have a system that they can pull their truck in, we can empty the entire truck off, put a brand new truck stock on, and the guy can go. Meanwhile, our guys in the shop, you asked if they work 40 hours a week. This is what they're doing, right? They're going through those truck stocks. They're taking that extra bag of copper 90s, that insurance policy of the what ifs. Well, they're taking it back and they're spreading it across all the trucks or returning it. And then they're providing an invoice for the things that were used. But that allows the tech to never have to go to the shop. One of our customers in Salt Lake, Any Hour, they have a system and they call it the Tooth Fairies. They go out every night and they replenish through Service Titan. We have the ability to see what they use on their trucks, and our guys pulling that stuff all day. We put it in a little bag, truck 28, right? And every night those guys will go and drop off those parts. They'll lift up the truck, the little hatch, put the parts in. They'll take the checks out, anything that has to come back to the shop in a little bag. They'll bring it back, and that guy technically never has to go to the supply house. So they can dispatch that guy directly from his house to the job site, directly to the homeowner. And their marketing, right? You go everywhere and you're going to see the Any Hour trucks because they're all parked at everyone's house at night.
No, it's an absolutely incredible system. So was that something that you guys helped design for them, or how did they come up with that?
So that's something that they had in place with a prior supplier, and we had the ability to be able to bid their work and take care of them. I like to think we perfected a few things, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, we've been running that program with them for quite a while now, and it's been very successful for them.
So what about the contractor that's under $5 million? What's the solution for those guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. We found, obviously, with that gap that not a lot of contractors fit in that over $5 million range.
Right, especially the guy that's got like his 2 family members working for him. There's no way that guy's hitting $5 million.
We're working to roll out a VMI Lite program here in the next month or so that allows those smaller contractors to organize their parts. It will require a little bit of investment in inventory, and that's something that they're willing to help them do through extended terms, through organizing. And we'll have a system where you could be anywhere in the country and we can ship you a pallet of the install bins. We'll take your water heater job, your 80% kit, your 95% kit for the furnaces, air conditioners, tankless water filtration, all of those top jobs, even underground jobs. we can take those bins, we can ship them to you across the country, and you can get started. And we can immediately start replenishing through an automated program through Service Titan and our website to ship those parts to your home with free shipping and second-day air.
Awesome. So I know you've mentioned Service Titan a couple different times. Is that the only company that you have this integrated with, or do you work with other CRMs?
Currently at the moment. And if you look,
I mean, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, we're partners with Service Titan, big advocates and whatnot, and definitely, you know, tell everybody that they should be switching over that direction. But yeah, just interested because I know a lot of these guys, especially the smaller guys, they're stuck on like a jobber or, you know, something that's like yeah.
And the right tools are expensive.
Right.
You know, if you think about it, you know, you're trying to get a job done without some of the tools that you have today, you know, it's very hard to accomplish the things without the right processes and the right tools. And I think taking the time to study out those things in your business, like don't sign up for everything. That's probably the number one thing I'd say, right? Don't go drop a bunch of money in marketing until you've proven that it works.
Right.
Right. And the easiest way to do it, Tony
So
Robbins,
don't go just drop 70 grand and
please don't do that. That's not good for your business, right? Follow Tony Robbins. He says success leaves clues.
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Go find something that somebody else is doing it, take it, model it for yourself. In your business, everyone's business is different. And that's the beauty of this industry. There's so many people who are
a lot of models,
you know, working to make it right. But I would ask, where's your source coming from? Is somebody getting paid to tell you that?
Right.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of that goes on, right? Has the coach that you're listening to done what you're paying him to tell you how to do, right? Or is he not done and he's looking to maybe expand his business because maybe he needs some more revenue and trying to expand that?
Speaking of which, like what are some big pitfalls that guys should try to avoid regarding this, like selecting the right coach or those type of things?
I think paying money to somebody without seeing what they've done before. You know, so many people, unfortunately, they want to take everything you have to get a coach.
Yeah.
And the reality is that there's a lot of free resources out there too. You can you can listen to podcasts.
Oh yeah.
Right? Tommy Mello has a great podcast. There's so many great things. You have a great podcast. There's so many people that you can learn from. And I think taking those things and applying them, and if they work, hey, take another step, right? You don't have to solve everything in one day.
Right.
But as I mentioned before, pulling one lever in your business could change everything. And so really evaluating it, going back to that question of saying, my goal is to make money. And as a plumber or a contractor, how do I make more money and do the right thing? By following the example of those who have done it.
So switching gears and just finalizing with this, talk to us about leadership. Like, how have you seen how leadership being the lid in some of these organizations, even in your own life or whatnot, and like enhancing that leadership or investing in becoming a better leader?
Yeah. Investing in yourself, I think most of these people listening, right, they could own a company, they could be on the sales team, they could be an installer, right? Investing in yourself and being the best that you can be at what you do is the first thing that I recommend for everybody. And that requires, the first thing is humility.
Right.
If you're not humble, then you're going to be compelled to be humble. You're going to have something in your life take you to your knees. And that's a great blessing, because to feel true happiness, you have to go through trials and heartaches. But the reality is that you're going to continue to struggle with that same problem in your life over and over and over again until you figure out how to overcome it. And unfortunately, I don't know if it was Alex Hormozy who said this, but I think it was in one of his podcasts, but he said, you choose the level that you stop progressing in your life, because there's always room to grow. There's always something. And the smartest people I know, the most successful people I know, are always learning. There's always something that you can learn from somebody. And so to answer your question, you have to be willing and humble to learn and grow and be the best that you can be in your area. And that comes from always auditing yourself and saying, where could I be better? What could I do better? And taking what works and continuing to lean into that.
And who in, like, from your clients do you see like applying that the best, like really implementing like good leadership development inside their programs or whatnot? What are some of the best practices you see happening?
One company I just visited yesterday, they're in Denver, Colorado. He's able to take his contractors through leadership, and he's able to give them a plan, a process, and a system for success. Everybody in the company knows what the vision is. He has a meeting every single day, right? Every morning to fire them up. And he says, every day I look at him in the eyes and I say, who's here to learn? Who's here to grow? And he gives those people who are willing to learn and grow the opportunities. When I go to some companies, I see a contractor who's been a plumber for 30 years. And he's sitting back in his chair and he goes, what is this guy going to teach me today? And there's no humility there because he knows everything. But I'm looking at these guys. One of them was 24 and he was the top salesman for this HVAC company. Right. And it's like, okay, if a 24-year-old could be the top salesman here, go back to that guy with 30 years, where's he at? And so I think taking that leadership of the vision, the process, communicating that so everybody knows what's going on, right? They're all in a team. The ones who struggle don't have a vision, don't have processes, scatterbrained. They're typically motivated by self-preservation or things that maybe I'm going to go on a trip to Bermuda, so I'm going to buy from this wholesaler and I'm going to pay 20% more than I should just so I can go on this trip with a whole bunch of people from the industry. It's like, I want to go on a trip with my family, not typically, a bunch of my competitors, but everyone has their own thing, right? And so looking at those companies, the ones who are winning, they're humble and they have that vision, the leaders learning and growing, and they're all seeking to grow. They're focusing on winning.
I absolutely love that. Appreciate you sharing your great knowledge. So if anybody is interested in like looking into your VMI program or potentially the VMI Lite program that's coming down the channel, like what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just if you're on my social medias, I have a link you can fill out. If you're interested in a free consultation, we'd love to send one of our people out and look at your business and see if it's something that we could even help with. And if not, we can even recommend of places of where you should go. And, we want to help contractors.
Love it. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being on here, Jacob.
Yeah, thanks for having me.